Okay, so hi everyone. Again, welcome to my channel. My name is Beatrice Adams. I know I probably mentioned that already. I thought I'd say it again. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Your story is your mission. And on this channel, my goal is to teach as many people as I can reach how to become a nonprofit at the state level, how to incorporate, and then how to become a 501c3 at the federal level. And with that, I'm showing you exactly everything you need to do. And it's going to take some time and patience. So let's just get on to this part three. Where we left off, you'll see that I am at the pay.gov website, which is where you'll have to be in order to submit this application, Form 1023. And also, they have added a layer of login. Security, I should say, at the login point. So be sure to follow whatever they're saying to do so that you can get into the system. And you'll see here, application for recognition of exemption under Section 501c3. So that's what we're working on. Part three, required provisions in your organizing document. Now, it says, see instructions for more information. And all I did was right click on that and I opened the link in a new tab. And here you'll see, these are the instructions. And when you do that, it takes you straight to where you need to be, part three. So if you have any questions on any particular section that you're working on, please look at these instructions. Do not be intimidated by them. Just read them, take your time, and then comprehend what you're reading, and then be confident about what you're reading and what you've comprehended, excuse me, because you can do this. I promise you, you can do this, but you have to be confident. And most importantly, you have to read the instructions if you have questions, and then you have to be very patient throughout this process. All right, so I'm back here at the application, and remember, this is an interactive application. So everything you're doing right there. When I say interaction, you see, you just go there. It's going to answer questions for you on this form. Again, there I would definitely access the actual instructions, and if I had anything, because this could be a little vague sometimes. All right, so here, part three helps ensure that when you submit this application, your organizing document contains the required provisions to meet the organizational test under Section 501c3. Now, recall in my previous video, and that was how to incorporate a nonprofit, and that's at the state level. I talked about the provisions very thoroughly and what you need to add when you incorporate it at the state so that they will approve you at the state for a nonprofit. Because if you do not put the provisions in at the state level, they're not going to approve you. Needless to say, they're not going to approve you at the federal level either without those provisions. So bear with me just a moment. I am going to click on those provisions so I can bring them up and let you see them once more. Bear with me one moment. Okay, so here I am with the provisions that I mentioned. Now, I'm not going to go over this word for word because, again, just go back and look at the video that mentions, that tells you all about the provisions and how to incorporate properly at the state level. But your provisions, basically what they do, it tells you exactly what will happen to your liabilities and your obligations, how it will be handled if the nonprofit should so dissolve. And remember, you may hear me say if you're a nonprofit, I may refer to it as your nonprofit, but remember that you are not the owner of a nonprofit. You cannot own a nonprofit as you would a for-profit. So just know that when you hear me say your nonprofit, that's just it's the nonprofit organization. You are not and cannot be the owner of a nonprofit. And that'll tell you here because the rules are it's going to tell you how everything must be dissolved, um, and that lets you know right there because it's not going to any air or anything like that. It has to go when if and when the organization nonprofit organization dissolves, it does have to go to a like-minded charity, um, and it has to be one that's formed under 501c3 3 of the Internal Revenue Code. And then, of course, statement of purpose, it does let you know, or the state know and the IRS know that the organization has not been formed for the making of any profit or personal financial gain. And it does say that the assets and income of the organization shall not be distributable to like the officers or the directors or any other individuals. And it just again, feel free to read this online, but I would encourage you to go back and look at the video. And that is how to incorporate to make sure that you're getting your provisions correct. Okay. Okay, so here we are back at this form, and I am going to continue on just with a little of these instructions or this information because it's very important. Remember, take the time to read. Do not skim over it. Read it word for word. Now, you may see that I don't read it word for word because I've seen it so many times, but if this is your first time, please read it word for word. Keep in mind, I may not read it again here. Just know that I'm very aware of everything that it's saying. So I want you to do the same. All right. And just for the sake of time, I may skip over some things. But again, please take the time to read it. And again, I was talking about the provisions, and it's saying, if you cannot check yes in both lines 1 and 2, your organizing document does not meet the organizational test. Do not file this application until you have amended your organizing document. Now, if you are one that, you're just seeing my videos, but you incorporated some time ago and you're not really sure if you incorporated it properly, then please go back and look at that. Again, I keep harping on that video on how to incorporate a nonprofit at the state. So please go back and look at it because you have to incorporate your nonprofit properly in order to, first of all, get approved at the state level, but then certainly to get approved at the IRS. So go back and make sure your document contains provisions, that everything is in line with that video. And if it is not, you will need to amend it because you have to do that in order to get approved. That's just the way that ball bounces. But hey, no worries. Amending is no issue. Just get it done. So here we are. Number one, it says Section 501c3 requires that your organizing document limit your purposes to one or more exempt purposes within Section 501c3, such as charitable, religious, educational, and or scientific purposes. And they're so nice. See, the following is an example of an acceptable purpose clause. Oh, excuse me. And then it tells you, here's an example. All right. But if you did your provisions correctly, and some states, I know North Carolina even has, a sample that you can actually use and attach. And I don't use it myself, but it's been effective. It works. So if they give you an example, use it. They're going to make sure it's saying what it should say because they want you to get approved. They're not going to give you half information. That's not going to work. So, but definitely feel free to use the provisions that also are, what I just actually mentioned. And I will be sure to try to remember to put that in a link for you. I'm going to write that down so that you can just look at that PDF and make it a little easier for you. Now, oh, let me point out one thing. In one of my previous videos, I think it was the previous videos, I talked about if your family member can be on your nonprofit's board. And I said yes, and I told you exactly how to do it and how to submit that information to the IRS so that will be okay. Also, be sure to check with your state laws as well. Make sure that you're able to do that. I know in North Carolina, when you're incorporating, it is optional as to whether you want to put the board of directors or board members or what have you, officers on that incorporation form. So they're not going to ask you that information. In the state of North Carolina, I have incorporated several people at the state that were husband and wife, or so on and so forth. And then went on to get them successfully approved at the IRS for 501(c)(3), so it was no issue there, again, because it's optional as to whether you want to add all of your board members on that form. It only gives you like a space for 2 or whatever, you know. But of course, we know you have to have 3 board members. But yeah, just be sure to check with your state as far as whether your family member can be on your board as well. I have not ran into any issues, but I did have one of my viewers, Wayne, who is or was an attorney with the IRS. I think I'm getting that right, Wayne. I'm sorry if not, but he was in the charitable division. I think it's tax-exempt and governmental unit, something of that sort, but he was a big deal. So so he pointed out to make sure that you all check, that I inform you to check with your state law as it relates to a family member being on your board as well. Again, I have not ran into any issues with that. Um, I've incorporated also ministries in New Jersey with where husband and wife were on the board, and I have not had any issues. Again, no issues in North Carolina, but hey, there's 50 states in the United in the United States of America, so please check your state law. And thank you, Wayne, for that. All right, so let's get back to this because I don't want to prolong any further. So here's the question under number 1: does your organizing document meet this requirement? You better say yes, because if you say no, you're not going to get approved. So it has to. And then go here. Look at this. Again, this is interactive. So look at that question mark. And it tells you your organizing document must limit your purposes to those described in Section 501(c)(3). Those purposes are charitable, religious, educational, scientific, library, so on and so forth. Be sure to make sure those provisions are in your incorporating documents. Some states it may be articles of organization, but whatever the form is to where you organize at the state as a nonprofit, make sure those provisions are in there. Here, state specifically where your organizing document meets this requirement, such as a reference to a particular article or section in your organizing document. Organizing document, of course, for North Carolina, that would be the Articles of Incorporation. So bear with me just a moment. Let's see where ours is. Okay, so again, it says state specifically, excuse me, where your organizing document meets this requirement, such as a reference to a particular article or section in your organizing document. And the requirement it is asking you about is where it says you've been organized for charitable, religious, educational, and scientific purposes specifically. All right, so let's see if I can hop over here and get this right. Bear with me. Let me just pull the provisions up just a moment. Okay, so what we're going to do is go right to the part where it is asking about well, how you were formed, what the purpose of your forming. And this is what I do. So I count this as one paragraph. It's not really, but I count that as one paragraph. Then I count that as the second one. Again, you get it. This would be the third one. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, and I'll get back to that part of the screen, we're going to say that in paragraph 3, 1, 2, and 3, excuse me for going fast there. Paragraph 3 is where the IRS will be able to find in our provisions that will say exactly what the charitable organization was formed, why it was formed. So right here, see, the organization is organized exclusively for charitable, religious, educational, and scientific purposes under 501(c)(3) of the Internal Revenue Code. That's what they're looking for. So they just want you to point them to where that says in your provision. So we're going to say um, it's going to be paragraph 3. And I always say page 3 because when they're looking at it, the articles of incorporation is typically 2 pages, and that's in North Carolina. If yours is only 1, just mark it as so. If it's 3, you get the point. But I always put here up here at the top because I know that North Carolina has 3 pages to their incorporation documents for a nonprofit. So I just marked that that's page 3 of 3, and it may not even be necessary. That's just what I do. And I'm going to go ahead and pick up one other thing because I know that the next question is going to be asking how you're going to dissolve. Okay. So we have that one, and so I won't pop back over here. But again, this is paragraph 1, this is paragraph 2, and the next question is going to be asking how you're going to dissolve your nonprofit. So that will be page 3 of 3, and it'll be paragraph 2. And I'll just type that in. I'll show you exactly because I know it's a little confusing as to how I'm saying it right now, but I'll go back to that form and I'll show you. But the next, again, it's going to want to know how you're going to dissolve. And see, this is what it's telling you right in this paragraph, how you're going to dissolve the nonprofit or how the nonprofit will be dissolved if it should have to come to that. All liabilities and obligations shall be paid, satisfied, and discharged, or adequate provision shall be made therefor. Assets not held upon a condition requiring return, transfer, or conveyance to any other organization or individual shall be distributed, transferred, or conveyed in trust or otherwise to a charitable and educational organization organized under Section 501(c)(3) of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended or corresponding section, so on and so forth. So that's where we're going to note that. Let's go ahead and get back over to Form 1023. So while I was looking at the provisions, the system timed me out. So I thought I'd go ahead and let you see how to get back into pay.gov. And with the new ID Me extra layer of security they've added, and I won't be disclosing any of my information, so that's fine. I just want you to see this. So here we are at pay.gov. Go ahead and click menu at the upper right hand corner. Again, if you have not created an account, do so. Go ahead and click sign in. And do you see here, this is an extra layer of protection that they've added. So I'm going to click here, sign in. And you can add your extra layer of security protection by using ID Me or login.gov. I chose ID Me, no particular reason. It was just first. So you have to set your account up with them. See, create an ID Me account. I've already done that, so I'm not new here. But we'll go ahead with my email address, and let me go ahead and get my password in there. And we're just going to go ahead and click sign in. And now see, it's wanting to text. I've already set that up that I want it to text me. I've got my number in there. So we get text. Excuse me, I clicked on text and I will click continue. And of course, my cell phone's right here. So it's going to give me that information here. I'm going to go ahead and put that in, that code in that it just sent me. Click continue. And now it should take me straight to my account. And it'll take you straight to your account. So as you can see, welcome Beatrice. And see, go to my account. So I'm going to click on that. Now, where you will access your application, if you've started it, remember, and you're ready or you're just about ready to submit it, and remember, because I told you it's not going to leave that form out there forever and ever. Amen. So whenever you start completing this form, you want to make sure that you are just at the point to where you're going to submit it and start uploading all of your documents, submit it, because again, it doesn't promise you, the system does not promise you it's going to save it out there for you. So, but this is where you would go. You would click on my forms and not submitted. You haven't submitted anything yet. Anything saved, that's where you're going to go. And remember here, there's just their information. If you have any questions, feel free to give them a call. They are there to help you. So we're going to click on saved. And this is the application that I've been working on. It's the test one that I've been using for Pretty Paws Foundation to get you through this process. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue to the form. And let me just get really quickly over to page 3 or section 3, part 3, excuse me. All right, so here we are. We're back. I went through that fast because we've already gone through part 1 and part 2, so we don't need to look at that again. So here we are. Now, remember, this is where we are. It says state specifically where your organizing document meets this requirement. And that requirement, again, is the one that says you formed as a charitable, religious, educational, and or scientific purpose nonprofit organization. And recall that I said that it was excuse me, page 3 of 3, paragraph 3. And that's all you have to do there. And then they can just pull it and look when they're going through the application approval process. Number 2, remember, this is wanting to know if your organizing document meet this requirement, and that is it requires that your organizing document provide that upon dissolution, your remaining assets be used exclusively for Section 501c3 exempt purposes, such as charitable, religious, educational. And we found that. And it says, does your organizing document meet this requirement? Yes. Again, if you say no, you see that? Your organizing document does not meet the organizational test. Do not file this application until you have amended your organizing document. So in this case, because you've watched that video and on how to incorporate at the state level, you know that it does meet that requirement. And now we're just going to let them know where in your provisions it meets that requirement. And that is page 3 of 3, paragraph 2. And again, just wherever yours is, make sure you're not just copying what I'm saying. That is actually where it is in your provisions. Now, if you're following the provisions that I have put forth in the video, then yeah, you're going to be able to use that. Just be absolutely sure, okay? So let's go ahead and click next. And that's it for part 3. I know that was short, but we're going to leave it at that. And then we're going to go start next with part 4 in the next video. So thank you so much for joining me. Please, if you have not watched all of the videos, please be sure to do that so this will make sense. Don't jump ahead. Even if you did organize already and say you formed your nonprofit a year ago or 2 years ago and you're running across my videos, please go back and look at every single one because you want to make sure you've incorporated your nonprofit correctly at the state level. And then also be sure to look at the EIN number video. You want to be sure that you have set that EIN number up correctly. Like I've had people that they have already established their EIN number, but they set it up as a sole proprietorship or an LLC or what have you. You want it has to be set up a certain way. So please go back and look at that video if you have not done so to make sure all of your documents are in line. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe to my channel so that I'll be able to keep bringing you content like this because it's very important to me, again, to teach as many people as I can reach how to become a nonprofit and how to become a 501c3 tax exempt organization. So please subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments section. I'll be sure to try my best to get to each and every one of your questions. Again, thank you.